Welcome to Ram and Goat Astrology. Join Helena and me, Laura Lee, each week as we take you on an explorative journey of astrology and health, reading charts, talking planetary energies, while educating and entertaining you. We help you navigate the mysteries of the stars and how they affect you personally. Here we go. Hello.
All right. Hello.
We are back.
We're back. Episode 2, we think.
Thank you.
Let's see how things go.
We don't know what number we're on. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
So, what are we doing today, Helena?
So we actually recorded a second episode last week, but we knew we wanted to talk about the current Uranus-Mars true node conjunction.
Yeah.
That's happened. It was exact last week, and it's been affecting my friend Laura here a lot.
Profoundly.
Profoundly. It's hanging out over her Chiron, and we thought this is now episode number 2 because, and also you all need to know about this transit because it's very rare.
It's rare and it's intense. It's intense. So my chart is really lit up, which is why we are diving into my chart today. I don't know if I've ever seen a chart so active, so with all the transits in the sky, exactly on somebody's, like all of their natal placements. There's a lot going on for me. So I am an Aries sun sign at 8 degrees in the 11th house, and Jupiter right now is at 8 degrees. So, and it's in retrograde. So it's actually going back over my sun, and then it's going to come back over my sun again.
So should we you want to explain just about that one, and then before we move on to the next?
Yeah, let's do this. So when you've got a Jupiter, which is the planet of good luck and expansion and just highlight, it's almost like a spotlight shining on somebody on stage, right? So you've got someone on stage, and Jupiter would be like the spotlight, and everything else in the room is dark. Well, you're essentially shining a giant spotlight on my sunshine, which is in the sign of, which is in Aries, which is the sign of like go, right? Go, have fun, do the things you want to do because you want to do them and they sound interesting. And Aries is also like, don't ask permission, don't wait for someone else. It's just go, right?
Very much a leader.
Very much. And it's opposite. My natal sun is opposite Mars by 3 degrees. They're 3 degrees off. So it's a pretty tight opposition. So not only do I have Jupiter in the sky currently transiting, when you have a transiting planet, that's the planets in the sky, but it's on my natal sun and it's opposite my Mars in Libra, which is all about balance and harmony and peace and relationships. And it's in my 5th house of creativity and fun. So I'm really working hard on balancing my relationships and my drive and ambition to create with how much energy I put out into the world via 11th house, which is community and social and internet and being weird. So I'm doing a lot of podcasts with someone in Sweden, right? Like that's a very much a 11th house situation right there. And Jupiter's just like extra go energy, and it's almost like adding fuel to the already hot fire that's normally burning. And it's intense. Yeah. It's intense. And on top of that situation, right next door, we've got my Mercury at 25 degrees Pisces, still in the 11th house. And Neptune in the sky is at 25 degrees Pisces. So we are talking exact degrees here, which is just incredibly intense energy. So we've got Neptune in the sky transiting. That's the planet of woo-woo, spirituality, intuition, stuff that's behind the veil and you can't really see. So my inner knowing, and that's on top of the planet of how I think and communicate and take in information. But that's also connected by a square, again, only 2 degrees off, to my natal Neptune at 27 degrees Sagittarius in the 7th house of one-on-one partnerships. Hi, Helena. So Sagittarius is very much about travel, and I would say, and then 7th house is one-on-one partnerships. So again, you and me doing what we're doing is very much fulfilling this energy. And I just noticed the moon is today, at this very moment, is on top
Yeah.
of Neptune in my
Right
chart.
now. Yes.
On top of that situation, this just gets better and better, doesn't it? On top of that situation, we've got Saturn in the sky. Saturn is transiting at 22 degrees Aquarius. My natal Venus is 22 degrees Aquarius. My MC, or the start of my 10th house, which we call the midheaven, and that's a big point in our chart because it's like how we show up in the world, right? It's how we show ourselves with our career.
Yeah, you usually say like it's very connected to what we choose for a career.
Yeah. And so that is at 21 degrees Aquarius. Not only do I have Saturn on top of Venus, my natal Venus is also trine to my natal Saturn in Libra in the 5th house. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? So I've got
Saturn is very much about like reminding you of your lessons in life, what you want, what you need to work hard on. And some of you might have heard about the Saturn Return, which happens at around 28 and a half. And that's when shit starts hitting the fan and things change and you face difficult decisions. And so pretty much that's what you have now, going over your MC and your Venus.
And my Venus. Trine to my natal Pluto and my natal Saturn, both in the sign of Libra, balance and harmony. And it's in the house of children and fun. So I am having a very, very, very intense energy between my work and career and my children, fun and play. And making sure I am doing the weirdo Aquarius, but also having the balance and the downtime and the peace and the harmony and the quiet time. And I did not do that last week, and my body broke because I have Uranus in the 6th house of health. And when you have Uranus, the planet of chaos, in your 6th house of health and day-to-day work and routine, if you don't deal with your issues, you break very quickly. My health will crash within hours. I'll be totally fine, and then suddenly I'm down and I can't function. So it's very interesting to have this all being activated and playing a huge role in my life right now. And then what we really wanted to talk about was this North Node Uranus conjunction. And then just a few days ago, Mars was there as well. And they are all sitting on top of my natal Chiron, which is an asteroid in my 11th house or 12th house in Taurus.
I just feel like I want to explain to the people who can see this on the video that inside this wheel, you can see where the planets are sitting. That's where they were positioned when Laura Lee was born. So they're not moving. And then the green ones on the outside of the circle, they are the planets transiting. So they are the positions, the current positions in the sky right now.
Right now.
So that's global for everyone. And inside it's personal for Laura.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Helena.
Yeah.
That makes me want to just take a deep breath just reading that information.
Yeah. I understand.
So when a planet is transiting your natal planet, it's an activated energy. It's like somebody turns on the go juice with those particular flavors, right? So I almost want to say it's like, going to a restaurant and choosing your meal, and you can choose whatever flavors you want with your meal if you want to eat this particular flavor or this particular flavor. Right now in my chart, there is a lot of different flavors being activated. I've got spiritual intuition on top of how I think and communicate. I've got giant spotlight on top of my sunshine, which is connected to my go juice. I've got past life stuff and wounds being activated by my karmic leveling up and chaos and rebellion.
Yes.
I've got Saturn, which is father time and rules and discipline on top of what I love and my career.
Yeah.
Yay. So much fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's I'm sure it's super intense, but I'm still smiling because I feel like I'm excited for you as well, because like, whoa, so much change, and you have Saturn didn't just go one time over your MC, right? It went over once, then it retrograded, went back over, and now it's going back again.
So he's actually, yeah, Saturn's
It's
actually going to
going
go
around.
past.
Yeah.
He's this, I want to say by September, October, he'll be significantly past. And then he'll turn around this fall and go back.
Yeah.
Now, when something is in retrograde, they don't actively move, go backwards. It's like looking at a car and certain rims on the wheel. When the car is going so fast, all of a sudden it looks like it's going backwards. That's what retrograde is. From our position on Earth, the orbits and the way things orbit, to our eye, it looks like it's going backwards, and then it'll turn around and go back. It actually keeps going in its orbit. It's just that the orbits are all off and a little bit different. So for us, from our perspective on Earth, we call it a retrograde, and we call it going backwards. It doesn't actually physically go backwards.
Yeah.
I feel like that's important. And I don't know if this is relevant information, but I was born with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think 6 planets retrograde when I was born. I'm pretty sure. Which I think is interesting as well. Maybe it was only 5. But I don't know what significance that has in the natal chart.
I feel like I have read that if you were born with, for example, now Saturn, you were born with a retrograde Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
So when Saturn in the sky now is retrograde, it is more comfortable for you than for someone who was born with a Saturn that was not in retrograde.
Okay, interesting. So let's dive into this North Node, Uranus and Mars conjunction we wanted to talk about deeper. So the North Node, first of all, I think we need to address that. That is where the path of the moon and the path of the sun interject, or where they cross each other. So it's not an actual planet in the sky. It's actually a point, a geometrical point, where the sun and moon's path cross. And so there's a north node and there's always a south node. But for astrological purposes, we normally focus on the north node because that's kind of the path we're headed towards. And the south node is the one we're moving away from.
Yep.
So when you have the north node, which represents, how do you interpret the north node, Helena?
I interpret the north node as sort of the path that we're supposed to go on. And usually it activates a little bit later in life, around 30 and 40.
Yeah.
And I feel like now I'm 34, and I feel like I have felt my north node for a couple of years now. And the position is usually, I would say, it's a little hard. But when I go there, when you lean into your north node, it feels so good, because that is really your soul's purpose. That is the way you're supposed to go.
Yeah. So when we're talking about a north node, we do have a north node natal placement. So for me, natally, mine's at 18 degrees Cancer in the second house. And I was actually just reading about that placement yesterday. My husband and I only have one placement that's the same in our whole chart, and it happens to be our north node. We both have second house Cancer and north node, but nothing else lines up the same in our chart because he's a Taurus rising and I'm a Gemini rising. So it's close. But I thought that was interesting that we have that one little point.
That is interesting.
Where we both came here to learn how to play house and be a mommy and a daddy and create structure and stability.
Whoa.
Yeah, and heal and be emotional and work on that Cancer healing, nurturing energy. So we are doing that job. We're playing house with our 4 kids.
Amazing. Yeah, it feels like you're really doing that.
Yeah.
So you're leaning into your north node.
Yeah. So with a transiting north node, how would you explain that one?
That feels because it's global. It affects all of us now. So
right.
I would say it's a very evolutionary sort of energy. Like this is the way that this planet's energy is supposed to go. So I feel like it's very much like, and also like, what's our karma?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's in the sign of Taurus right now. And Taurus very much, every time I think of Taurus, I think of food and security. And if you really look across the globe right now, whether you're in Sweden or Bhutan or America, we have a food situation anywhere you go. We have microplastics in food. We have oceans that have issues. We have weather issues. We have cost issues. There are food issues kind of everywhere. And Taurus is slow change and slow progression. And I feel like we're really working on creating something unique, which would be the Uranus placement. So Uranus is right next to the North Node there. And that's the rebellion, eccentric, unique thinking planet. So it gets ideas that are not
An
of this
inventor.
world. Yeah, not of this world. So I think that's really what we're supposed to be working on is coming up with creative food systems to support ourselves and not be so heavily reliant on governments or grocery stores or whatever, right? Figuring out our food and security system across the globe where it's a sustainable situation for the population we have. And it's not going to be a fast change. Even though Uranus is fast and usually quick to do things, when it's in Taurus, I feel like that's really something that almost like pulls the reins back. Like, whoa, hang on.
Yeah. And we can also mention that the last time that Uranus was in Taurus was during the Depression.
Yes. So during the Great Depression in the United States, when there was food issues, security issues, money issues, just a huge upheaval of the way the system was created. Now, that's not all bad because from that system, the broken system, new things emerged, right? We created like the social security system and all of that. Safety nets were provided. There was like a societal humanitarian safety net system that was put into place that had not been in place before. And Uranus is the humanitarian of the zodiac. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more collaborative efforts working together instead of the individualistic stuff, because you can't do individualistic anymore, right? We have to figure out as a collective how to live as this earth conglomerate, because we're not separate anymore, are we? Like, look at you and me. We're doing a business and we've never met in real life. And we are literally across the globe. We're probably like 7,000 miles apart. I'm pretty sure it's about 7 or 8,000 miles. So if you think about that, we are very much working as individuals, you and I, for a humanitarian effort to help educate and encourage people to keep learning and growing and connect as a unit, but do it in our own unique way to do that like soul leveling up or that karmic leveling up of the North Node.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I just thought about a project here in Stockholm as well that was started not so long ago. Let's say, I think it's about 7 years ago. It's called like Grow Together. And it's pretty much a permaculture group that they realized that, okay, we need to find a way to learn how to grow our own food, do it in a way that doesn't harm nature, and we need to be open to everyone and to be welcoming and not only take in people who already know everything about farming.
Right.
And that's the one I joined.
Nice.
So, and that feels so much like Uranus in Taurus.
Yeah, it does. And one of the things my husband and I have been farming on our 35 acres for about 10 years, but one of the things we are very passionate about is figuring out ways to farm year round, because in Wisconsin and in Sweden, you can't farm year round unless you have a greenhouse or something like that. And we've been getting into vertical gardening systems in your home. We use the Tower Garden brand, and it's the same company that put the food growing stuff in the space station. So they've been working with NASA for the space station. And it's a really, really neat system that can be put into anybody's tiny little apartment or anything. It's a very, very small unit that can grow a lot of food in a short amount of time using only, some nutrients and water. So I think unique ways of approaching that food system like that is very similar to what you're doing, right? Like just educating on new ways to supply yourself and feed yourself.
Yeah, because I think what's happening now too is that we don't really trust what's in the supermarkets anymore, because now we know about all of the toxins that are in some of the vegetables.
Well, and the food recalls in America, the recall we have on food or spinach is almost every other week. It's almost to the point where people don't even care anymore because it's so common that there's recalls on this because of this, E. coli outbreak or
Oh,
salmonella on
yeah,
the spinach or
yeah.
whatever. So I don't know what they're doing to spinach that they're having salmonella. Like, what are you putting on the spinach? I don't.
I'm so happy I'm growing my own spinach right
Right?
now. Yeah,
Right? So
yeah.
for me, natally, these things are affecting my Chiron. So
Mm.
Chiron is an asteroid that goes between Saturn and Uranus in a very strange elliptical orbit, and we call it our wounded healer. So when you have your wounded healer, Chiron, it looks like a key, which I like to think of as it's like the key to healing your problems is when you lean into that Chiron. So interestingly enough, Chiron is the only planet or anything I have in Earth. There's nothing else in my chart that is in an Earth sign. So I have earthly issues and wound
Yeah.
issues. And it's interesting to say and to take note that I have food issues. I don't know if I've come to this life with some past life issues with food, but it's not that I don't have food available to me. I just really don't like to eat food. There's almost like a blockage in my mind that I struggle to eat, which causes blood sugar issues, which causes hormone issues, and causes mental health and mood issues. And this is something I'm consciously aware of, but still am working hard to solve. So it's very interesting that this is very active for me right now. And I'm really, really creating awareness around this like past life food thing. I don't even understand it. I have lots of food. We have freezers full. I do canning. I grow everything,
Yeah.
but I struggle to eat it. So it's almost like I came into this life with like a past life anorexia issue or something, right? Like I just don't want to eat. And it's been like this for as long as I can remember. I actually don't ever remember a time where I found food to be awesome or attractive or something I wanted to eat. And I know that sounds strange for a lot of people, especially
Yeah,
for
I'm like, do you have a favorite food? Like, what's your favorite food? Do you have one?
I think some really well cooked roasted broccoli with some Parmesan cheese on it and garlic would be great. But I don't know
Yeah,
if
I'm like,
I,
yeah, I love that thing.
yeah, I don't look at me. I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, and you say past lives because it's in your 12th house.
Mm-hmm.
You keep saying past life.
Yeah.
And I was
And
also thinking, I mean, yes, food for sure, Taurus, but also pretty much how we receive anything
yeah,
has to do with Taurus. So like, yeah, we receive food, but it's also could also be other things.
finances.
Yeah, receiving.
Yeah, finances.
A lot of things to do with
Taurus
food.
rules practicality, being practical, slow and steady. It's very musical. Very, very musical. It rules the neck and the throat as the body part. And it rules like your values and what you desire and, the things that make you feel good in life.
Yeah.
So I would say I definitely have issues with a lot of that. A lot. Yeah. Thanks, Chiron.
Well, this is why astrology is so good because now we can literally we can pick out Chiron and we can really pick apart that. We can pick apart the placement for you,
Yeah.
and then it's so much easier to look at. And in the beginning you don't understand, and then sometimes you're like, oh, now I get it. It's for that.
Right, right. And receiving is a big one for me, receiving anything. So when you look at the body, your body stores emotions in certain spots that are weakened areas that you kind of need to work on building up. So for me, my entire life, I've had a lot of physical pain issues I've worked on overcoming. And 99% of my physical issues have manifested on the left side of my body, which is our feminine side or our receiving side, taking in.
Yeah.
I do not do well. I'm working on it. I'm consciously working on it. I should say in the past, I have not done well with receiving care, receiving love, receiving anything, even like scheduling a massage appointment feels like I should be doing something else, right? Or like I don't deserve this kind of thing. So again, my instinct in my heart is telling me this is from like wounds from another life. This is not or generational, right? My mom's or my grandma's or whoever's. So receiving love and receiving help and support is something I am actively working on, like right now.
Yeah, no, it was great. And then today, before we recorded this podcast, I got a text from you saying, I need support doing this, da da. And I thought about this, and I'm like, great, that's amazing.
That was hard for me to send you because it made me feel like I wasn't competent enough to do it myself. And I didn't want to admit that, right? Taurus doesn't like to admit when they're wrong. No. But I knew I needed to because, again, in the past, I've had these hiccups and hangups where when you don't have Earth in your chart, that is the element of staying power. Like you can stay and work on something. And for me to be able to stay and work on something and finish it to completion is almost painful. Again, my only earth thing is my wounded healer, my wound, my childhood wound, my past life wound, or my generational trauma wound, whatever you want to label it. So to ask for help and support was difficult. I didn't like it, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I'm really glad you did too. And I feel like if you find that it's really hard to do because you feel any certain type of way about it, you could just add like, I need help, or like I need support, or like my Chiron needs support today, or like
my Chiron.
It's not me, it's my Chiron.
My Chiron needs to be seen.
My Chiron needs your help today. Just so it's, I don't know, maybe it's easier to do like you have an explanation for it, and maybe sometimes that would make it easier for you, so you don't feel like, I don't know, I just feel like it could be easier.
Right. And you're right. And the thing with 12th house stuff is anytime anyone has planets in the 12th house, that is an energy that's like hidden behind the curtain. So I've got a curtain here. I know there's things back there, but the curtain's pulled. So my brain is like, I don't care. It's whatever. So when you have a lot of planets in the 12th house, that energy is not readily accessible to you unless you actively work on pulling back the curtain and really digging in. That takes like meditation and practices to do that. It also helps to have someone else like go behind the curtain for you and be like, hey, I see this and this, what do you need, right? Like the other person can access it easier. Or the third thing is when there's transiting planets on top of it. So when there's a planet in the sky on top of your 12th house planet, then you can utilize that planet in the sky to access that. So unfortunately / fortunately, I get the planet of chaos. Yay.
but also of like invention and I mean, after chaos things are rearranged.
They are
for the better, hopefully now with the North Node there and transiting your Chiron.
Yeah. And I think Uranus really is there to give you a whole different perspective, right? It's like me putting on a new pair of my blue light glasses, right? Now I'm different. Look at, woohoo, right? So it gives you a different perspective to look at things in a different way. And it's interesting because my grandmother just passed a month ago, and my maternal grandmother, and now my mother is experiencing some, emotional stuff and generational stuff as she's dealing with that passing. And it was a year long in coming, so there was a lot of time to prep and prepare, but I don't think you can prepare for the emotional onslaught afterwards, right? And so my mom and I are both dealing with a lot of generational healing and dealing with pulling that stuff out and going, do I need this? Is this mine? No, I don't need that either, right? And you never know how much is in there until you really start like cleaning out the closets. It's amazing how much crap we can shove into our generational closets.
Yeah, and I mean, we all have it. We all have generational stuff with us.
Yeah. So now, last week we had Mars on top of this whole conglomeration here. So Mars is the planet of passion. It's the warrior. It's kind of feisty.
Yes.
It rules our sexuality. It rules how we deal with anger, and how do we expand our energy. Mars is like, I like to call it the go juice. It's the car we drive through life. Well, when it's in Taurus, you kind of drive slow and steady. Maybe you drive, like an elderly person.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not racing through life by any
Yeah.
means. So while Mars is normally like, woohoo, let's go. When it's in Taurus, it's like, hang on, are you buckled up, honey?
Mm.
Do you have your water? You got some snacks for the trip? This is going to be a while, right? Right? Like it's not really that enthusiastic. It's more practical about the way
Yeah.
it moves. So as it's going over my Chiron here and my spiritual North Node leveling up, it's very practical, making sure I deal with all of this stuff, right? Like, hey, you got to cry. Now you need to go do some yoga. Now you need to eat. Now you need to sleep, right? It's
Do
very
you do that? And do you feel like you get that? Because that sounds amazing. Like to have like a schedule, like, okay, now I need to do this. I'm gonna go and cry, and you cry. And now I need to go and nurture myself and eat, and then you do it. Do you do it?
I'm so glad you think that sounds amazing. I am doing it because my body forced me to last week, right before we started our recording. I was telling Helena about my body speaking to me that I had been sitting and not moving for far too long, and I haven't been like actively in my body. I've been in my mind too much, which happens when Neptune is on top of Mercury connecting to Neptune. So I got yelled at by my body, which again, Taurus is very much in the physical, right?
Yeah.
And I had a lot of old wounds from about 6 years ago, about 6 to 10 years ago, back problems that just showed up out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. I went from totally fine Thursday morning to Thursday evening. I was almost completely like paralyzed and could not move. I could not stand up, sit down. You should have seen me trying to get off the toilet.
Scary.
It was. So old wounds came up, and Mars was there last week to go, you're not doing your shit. I told you to do this, and you're not doing it. And that was definitely when I had to make the decision to do exactly what I just said, like yoga, meditation, eat, like the basics of life, the Taurus of life, right? I I have to focus on that and have a list. And so yesterday I spent about 6 hours redoing my whole Google Calendar and making it all color coordinated to do exactly that.
That sounds amazing.
I'm glad you think so. I hate it, but I need to do it. My 11th house.
I have so much Earth, so
my 11th house, Mercury and Sunshine, and my Venus in Aquarius don't want anything to do with the schedule. No. No. Don't even come near me with my Gemini rising. I don't want no schedules. I'm just gonna blow around like the air.
Well, yeah, so much air.
But I have to, because my key to healing is doing Taurus stuff. It just is. And if I don't take care of those fixed practical things, it's not good. I'll tell you, my husband will tell you on Thursday it wasn't good. So Mars really showed up, Uranus really showed up, and North Node really showed up for me in the fact that I did not do the Taurus energy. I did not enter into that realm, and Uranus was like, hey, let me cause some chaos for you so you learn it. Thanks. And then the chaos created, right? It's like a little mini tornado showed up, and it screwed up my world for a couple days, and I had to recognize how out of balance I was. Really out of balance. Thanks, Jupiter on top of my sun, opposite Mars in the sign of balance. I appreciate that.
I mean, I wonder now, like, if you didn't have this tool of astrology, I wonder, because I was talking about this with some friends yesterday. We talked about astrology, and I was talking about how I got into it, why I like it, and I was saying, like, I so wish that I would have known more about astrology before I had my Saturn return and before I had Pluto going over my ascendant and my moon, because then
that would have been nice.
It would have been so much easier. And instead, I just thought that I had lost it. And I was so confused and scared. And yeah, so like now you can see all of this. And if you didn't have this, you probably would have been very confused.
I have cried twice with this energy because I can feel the intensity, especially with my mind. Aries rules the head. Jupiter's on my sun in Aries. Mercury and Neptune, again, Mercury rules the mind and how we think, and Neptune is nebulous and weird and chaos, or not chaos, but foggy. But it's also spiritual, and so I'm getting like messages and like psychic kind of stuff, and it's very, very intense, and that's strange. So I think astrology has given me permission, and like Deborah Silverman, our teacher, said, it's a permission slip to be okay with what is happening to me. And knowing what's happening is absolutely crucial for working with the energy. If I, like you said, if I didn't know this was happening, it would be so intensely chaotic. Really. I mean, I've got Saturn in Aquarius. Aquarius again, that chaos energy and that really weird out there kind of energy, but Saturn rules discipline and working hard. So you got work hard with chaos. So okay. And being eccentric. And then you've got Jupiter on top of your sun sign is a very, that happens once every what, 12 years, I think?
Yeah.
So
14? I don't remember actually.
I don't either, but I want to say it's 12 to, maybe it's 12 to 14 is like the transit, but, or the cycle, but this won't happen again till my mid 50s. And I need to recognize that.
I feel like it's a very lucky time.
Right? This is very fortunate. And I'm attempting to utilize all the energy in a healthier way. Because last week I got, like, I blew myself up essentially.
Yeah, and that's an interesting choice of words because you have Uranus and Mars, and them together. I feel like that is an explosion.
Yeah, yeah. With my wound of just Taurus is so good at just hanging out. Just be. If you want to ever just be, find a Taurus friend and just they will be like, yeah, let's just sit and do nothing.
Yeah, let's just sit in the sofa together. That's my my boyfriend's favorite thing to do. He has a lot of Taurus.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's his favorite thing. When we're just together doing our separate things, but in the sofa.
Because it's comfy and we're just sitting. Yeah, Taurus energy is so good about that. And while, yes, I was sitting a lot last week, I was not doing the intentional self-care that I needed to do. And I wasn't taking time away from my brain stuff. You know, I wasn't doing the meditation or the yoga and the eating and all that. So I think it's really important to recognize how important astrology can be in your world, just simply for the mental health aspect of things, right? Knowing that you're not losing your mind, you're actually finding it.
Exactly. And also knowing that this is passing.
Yeah. And I do recognize that Jupiter, Neptune, and Saturn are all going to be in these positions for a while. They are not going to be moving because they're all actually retrograde right now. So I have probably a good another 3 to 6 months with most of this energy.
Yeah.
So I have lots of opportunities to practice and get this right so that when I move forward with building my career and moving forward in that realm, I have a better structure in place. And that's what Chiron's key is all about. Leveling up and learning how to take the wound and heal yourself and others. And I have to do it in a weird Uranian way with Uranus there. And then Mars just showed up there too to be like, hey, let me help you out. Give you a little bit of drive.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think it was Jessica Laniato that said about transits, like tough transits, like you see them coming and you're like, no. But the thing is that this will never happen in your chart again.
Nope.
So it's really, she said something about like, it may feel heavy, but also recognizing that this is my only opportunity. This is such a great opportunity to really dig in and have some major shifts, because this is the only time this transit is.
I love that. I love that perspective because it is an opportunity. I recognize that this combination will never happen again. This whole Saturn, Neptune Jupiter, Uranus, Mars thing. This will never happen again in my chart. My chart will never be lit up like this again.
Mm.
And I am fortunate enough to have it be here for a while to really examine it. I feel like Saturn is sitting here on one shoulder, and then in between that, there's my career and what I love, Venus. And Venus is about money too, so hello,
Yeah.
that would be lovely. And
Yeah.
then I've got my natal Saturn on the other shoulder. So I'm getting like two Saturns very, very supportive of like, let's get this right, Laura. Let's figure this out. Rules, discipline, structure, right? And then over here in the 12th house with Chiron and Uranus, let's figure this out. Structure, a new way of thinking, self-care, right? So I've got some really supportive energy is what I look at it. Is it intense? Yeah, it's intense like a bonfire can be intense if you go too close to it.
Yeah. And I mean, and also the true node or the north node over your Chiron. I mean, what an opportunity.
It is. It's really a soul opportunity to heal the karmic stuff, the generational trauma. I find it very interesting that grandma died during this placement too, right? Like that's pretty significant. She had lots of, 92 years, and she died while I had all of these things going on, spiritual connection and past life stuff. And there's just a lot of like generational healing
It's
in
not a
here.
coincidence for sure. Yeah. And I mean, this conjunction right over your Chiron, and I mean, everyone can pull up their charts and see if this conjunction happened, like hitting anything in your chart specifically, because and it feels like that part of your chart will be really shifting something within you. And it's no coincidence that it's happening over your Chiron right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
Right now. And something to take note of too, we didn't talk about, but not too long ago, they were further back in Taurus, and they were opposite my natal Jupiter in Scorpio. So I had that aspect as well that I don't know if I actually really dug into that and recognized it, but I'm positive I felt it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was so much other stuff going on. I was like, I can't even look. I can't.
No,
can't
I
even
mean,
look.
I've known you for, I don't know, 4 months, 5 months,
5 months?
Five?
Five.
5 months. And since I got to know you, it feels like you just had so much changing in your world and at home and with work, with your family, with pretty much everything.
Yeah, everything. What's interesting is my husband's MC is right here in Capricorn. So he's actually at, Pluto is right now at 26 degrees Capricorn. My husband's MC is 26 degrees Capricorn. So he is having a Pluto transit on his career house, and I'm having a Saturn transit on my career house. And when you have Pluto transiting things, you cannot ignore that. That is impossible.
Things happening. Yeah. And Pluto is a sign of death and rebirth. And what did he do? He left his job.
He quit his job. Yep. He was working as an electrician. He quit his job to stay home and do full time with our 4 kids and support me so I could work on my career. Cause he said, I can clearly tell you like what you do a lot more than me and you're way better at it. So he wanted to support, and astrologically it's perfect timing. Like it's perfect timing for him to do that and for me to do that. So it's interesting even when you get into partnership charts and things and see that timing.
Yeah. That's so cool. And that really worked out for the better so much. Like with Pluto things, it's tough and hard and scary, and then you come out of it and hopefully, usually you feel so much better.
Yes.
But you do have to, of course, do your part as well. It doesn't just happen like that.
No. Saturn will make sure of it. So anything else you see going on here you want to talk about, Helena?
I feel like we could talk about your Chiron for
I know.
Forever. I was going to ask you actually, how are you with food? Like since last week or since you started realizing like I can't go on like this, how has your sort of relationship to food changed? How have you tried to change at least how you treat it, because you might not be able to change how you feel about it just yet. But
I think it's starting to shift, and also the realization of that I do much better drinking things than I do eating. So
you're not a chewer.
yeah, so well, honestly, there's something to that. When your chart is mostly fire and air, I feel like I have right now 3 drinks in front of me. I've got tea, water, and then like a sparkling thing, of carbonated thing, and that's my normal. I usually have 3 to 4 drinks. So I don't have a problem drinking things, but I think that's a big part of my elemental makeup is I just am hot and thirsty frequently. So I've found that if I have a protein shake, that is a really good way to kind of activate my digestion. And then I want to eat later on after I have that protein shake. So I'm finding ways to kind of hack the system.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's good.
It's getting there. And also my husband knows, and my son, who's triple Taurus, they both know that if you actually just give me the cooked food, I will tend to eat it. It's the making of the food and then the eating it. It's almost like that's too much work. I like to make food.
Yeah.
I'll eat it if you give it to me, but I don't want to make it and eat it.
You don't want to make it, and I wonder what that is. Have you had, or like, would you be into doing?
Do you want to know? I actually did a past life regression on this not too long ago.
Oh,
I had a friend of mine help me get into a hypnosis state where we went into this particular issue, and I pulled out a past life where I was a very, very, very old, worn down, very thin woman in the South, the deep South of America, like I want to say like Georgia or Mississippi. And I was churning butter on the front porch, and I was real angry and bitter. And it was just work. Food was work. And I was looking out at my field, and the field was just basically dead. There was a famine, and there was children everywhere. I think I took in a lot of like foster children and stuff. And I took them in because there was literally nowhere for them to go. But I also didn't really have the means to support them either. So food was constantly work and work. And I was just real bitter with work and kids and food. But like I also was like, it made me happy as well, but not really, right? Had been so long and so hard of a life where I was so thin and there was no support system. It was a very long time ago. And it was just, I just got this overwhelming, like grumbly, gruff voice of like, food is work. And that's kind of the past life thing. So I was working on like disconnecting and healing and integrating and all that stuff. So that was just the last, I want to say maybe 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when all of this stuff was very, very active on top of my Chiron. I decided to do that session. And it was very eye-opening.
Yeah.
It was very eye-opening.
And I mean, it would have been really like something that you would just worry about as well. Like if you don't have any food. Yeah.
Yeah, so I saw her. There was an image of her, this old lady. She had like white hair with a real low bun, and her clothes were like she only had one pair of clothes, and they were real tattered. And there was like kids out in the woods trying to hunt, right, and get some food that way. And there was some other kids going to town to sell whatever they could and make some money, right? Like I had just like 14 or 15 like foster kids everywhere. And I saw her at the table, like trying to make bread with this really tiny amount of flour, right? And just doing whatever she could to just make anything, extend out. And my heart was just so sad for this woman who just, there was like no option out of this life for her. And it was sad and healing and eye-opening at the same time. So I think I'm working on healing the idea of food being too much work, and knowing that I have these lush, beautiful gardens and they are a privilege now, and the work is a privilege and it's not something I have to do, right? So I'm kind of shifting that energy. So I think that's the healing stuff I need to do.
But that's interesting. Like that was your past life, and now this life you do have a farm and you do grow your own food. And I don't know, are you doing well with that? Like you are getting a lot of food growing at your farm? It's like, or you're having problems with the crops? Or
no, everything here is lush and green and beautiful and like amazing abundance, to the point where we're like, holy beans, right?
What to do with everything.
Right.
Yeah. So now I guess the thing is to just learn how to take it in, because that too, I was thinking about that. Like, you spend so much time and work on actually making really good, nutritious food for you to have, and then it just don't want it to travel from here to here.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So it is something that I think is, like you said, with your North Node, like Cancer is also around food and nourishing yourself, right?
Yeah.
And it's in the second house, which is ruled by Taurus. So my natal North Node is ruled in the Taurus energy as well. So I feel like it's a really, really important time for me right now around nourishing myself and healing this kind of food wound that I've dealt with for a good 40 years now. Isn't that interesting to kind of, when you start connecting that stuff?
That's so interesting, because that is also such a huge part of your life. I mean, imagine if you can go in and shift how you receive, and then after see how
things change.
your life would change. Yeah, it's a huge part. I'm so excited that you're doing that, and that you did this past life regression.
It was so cool, and it was so eye-opening and going, oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm doing is I am writing a book with 12 other women, and it's called Dare to Express, and we're writing each a chapter, and it's coming out next month, September 2022. And the chapter I wrote it's so interesting. This is all coming together. I could have written on anything in my life, the getting stem cells or my fertility journey or anything like that. And I ended up writing a story I didn't actually think was relevant until I started writing it. And it was a day in the life of me with my children, my 3 children when they were small. And so I went from 5.5 years of fertility issues and trying to get pregnant to then cleaning my body and conceiving naturally 3 times in a row and having 3 children in 4 years, which is very, very big shift, a very big swing of the pendulum. And the chapter I wrote is all about when my youngest was 2, and then the middle was 3, and the oldest was 5, and my mental health breakdown I had that day, and what led to it, and the frustration and the struggles and the concerns and the shame that I felt and the yelling and all of that, and the mom guilt and all of that stuff. And in that chapter, I have a piece in there about food and about receiving food and about receiving love from my children. And my son was 5, and he knew even then that food helped mama stabilize. And he brought me a plate, little blue plastic toddler plate with crackers. I remember it so vividly. Crackers and peanut butter and some cut up apples. And he brought me this plate after I had a huge, horrible meltdown and horrible explosion. And it was part of the healing that I went through during this journey. And so that's the chapter I chose to write on, which I find so interesting. And I think as I get out of this time frame in my life, it will even be more significant when I have some more perspective.
Yep.
And that receiving of love from my children, and that receiving of love from myself, and recognizing the healing that needs to happen. But I think it's so interesting how all of this is like culminating together.
And how like that chapter is so also so literally about receiving something. And this North Node in Cancer, and my natal chart and second house, and then my North Node in Taurus and transiting, and how they kind of actually, that's really what the chapter was on, was mothering, nurturing, healing myself, and learning how to heal my past and move forward. And I don't know if I've put that stuff together until right now. Yeah.
Right now.
Also, that's the magic of speaking words out loud.
Yeah. My Gemini moon and rising absolutely love speaking words out loud. But the thing is, I don't normally know what I'm speaking until it actually comes out. And then I go, oh, look at that.
Yeah. That made sense.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, especially I love reading people's charts who have 12th house energy and 12th house planets, because it is very difficult to access and consciously create awareness around. So even just going through my chart, I've gone through my chart a million times, but even what we're doing today, I've had so many new epiphanies that I never had before.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I love it. Like you don't look at your chart for a while, and then you go back, and then all of a sudden, yeah, you can see something. You can see something new. Like you have like a different pair of glasses on.
That's exactly it. It
Yeah.
really feels like that, especially even just getting a little point of view from you here and there on, oh,
Mm.
this could be this or this could be
Yeah.
this. Very cool. Very cool. And then also, don't forget, Chiron in the sky, transiting Chiron is in Aries. He was actually just on top of my sun as well not too long ago.
Mm.
Yay. So I had that. But so when Chiron is in Aries, there is energy around speaking your truth, right? Speaking out and being the leader and saying the things that people don't normally want to say or are maybe hesitant to say. And so I think sharing my chapter on a global stage the way I am and speaking about motherhood shame and motherhood traumas and hormone imbalance and physical pain and all the stuff I was dealing with and my mental health struggles, I think that's something people, again, still do not talk enough about. And that was pretty gutsy to do, to put out there and be like, yeah, I screwed up real bad and I said some nasty things to my kids and I hurt their feelings and I hurt mine and I blew up my house. And here's how I recovered and here's what I learned and here's the lesson in that.
Yeah. No, that is very brave. I don't think a lot of people would like to admit that they have, that they think that they have actually had periods when they weren't a good parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like not a good parent, but like not their proudest moments.
Yeah. No, this was probably, I chose to write about my most shameful moment, honestly.
Yeah.
Like if you could say what's your most shameful moment of your life is unleashing my powerful Aries sun and Mars Libra. When you have Mars in Libra, you have the ability to use words like a lawyer and slice people like a razor blade across their throat. Like you really can. It's kind of impressive how sharp my tongue can get. And when that is out of balance and you have fire and air out of balance, you do burn down a country. I mean, look at Australia. Like it burned, right? That's what I did to my house. That's what I did to my family. And that's what I chose to write about. And I'm still kind of in awe that that's the chapter I wrote because it was honestly my most shameful. But again, Jupiter wants me to highlight that and put that out there because do you know how many other parents I'm going to connect with who also feel that way?
Yeah.
You know?
And who will feel probably so relieved to read something like that. When is the book out?
It's coming out September 16th.
Very soon.
Yes. Yes.
Very soon.
Dare to Express is what it's called. It'll be launched on Amazon. So we're very excited about this.
Yes.
And it's a collaboration of 13 women, and each of them have different stories that they've overcome, whether it's narcissistic, abusive relationships, or adopting a child, or, coming through a fertility journey, or for me, parenting and shame. So it's really, really good stories, really good stories.
Can't wait to read it.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
I know.
me too.
And of course, with Mercury in my 11th house, I have to do that. I have to communicate what I know and share that with the masses. And that's really part of our podcast, too, is sharing our education and our knowledge with others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's good for diving in today.
I think so too. So thank you so much for joining us on episode 2
Yes.
of
Yes.
Diamond Goat.
We appreciate it, and we will be back next time. And thanks so much. And if you like this, please share it with a friend.
Please do.
Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. If you would like to be a part of our show or have a personal reading done with us, email us at ramgoatastrology@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. See you next week.